The Detroit Lions have their work cut out for them this offseason, with Ben Johnson leaving to head coach the Chicago Bears, Aaron Glenn leaving to head coach the New York Jets, Terrell Williams leaving to be the defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, and other coaches potentially on the move this offseason as well. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes will have their work cut out for them when it comes to restocking the cupboard and putting together a top coaching staff yet again. And today, we're going to take a look at one of the biggest hires that the Detroit Lions need to make, whether that be on the offensive or defensive side of the football. A coordinator is one of the biggest coaching hires and one of the biggest coaching decisions that your team can make in any given offseason. With the Detroit Lions losing both of theirs, they're going to have to hire two really big premium positions to keep up the work that the previous regime had left behind. And as we talked about the OC on Monday, today we're going to take a look at the new OC hiring for the Detroit Lions. We're going to go over the top two prospects today in Kelvin, Sheppard, and Larry Foote. Go over a couple of dark horse candidates at the end that will get their own video later in the week. But with that being said, let's start off just like we did with the offensive coordinators and look at where this team was a season ago under now head coach Aaron Glenn and see where the next defensive coordinator has to pick up from. Now, Aaron Glenn was the Detroit Lions defensive coordinator for 4 seasons. He began in the 2021 season and coached all the way up through the playoffs in 2025. Before that, he was an assistant defensive back coach in Cleveland from 2014 to 2015, the defensive backs coach in New Orleans from 2016 to 2020, and then, of course, the defensive coordinator in Detroit from 2021 to 2024. This coaching journey comes after a really good, very long NFL career as a defensive back, playing for the Jets, the Texans, and so many other franchises, where he saw a lot of success as a player and is now seeing pretty immediate success as a coach throughout the league. Taking a look at the last couple of years, Aaron Glenn's defenses haven't statistically been the best. In 2021, first year on the job, there was a lot of work to do. The talent really wasn't there. It was kind of the scraps of the Matt Patricia era with a couple of free agents and a couple of draftees. But other than that, they really struggled. They ranked 29th in yards, 31st in points, and just 21st in takeaways in the 2021 season. In the 2022 draft, the Detroit Lions made an effort. They drafted Aiden Hutchinson. They drafted Josh Paschal. They drafted several other players on the defensive side of the ball, and they did get a little bit better. They ranked 32nd in yards, but 28th in points and 17th in takeaways. The points and takeaways got better, but they still allowed a ton of yards. They still allowed a lot of big plays, and quite frankly, were not a very good defensive unit yet. In 2023, the Detroit Lions yet again took a step forward after signing free agents Cam Sutton and a couple of other players on the defensive side of the ball. With the emergence of players like Kirby Joseph, rookie sensation Brian Branch, and Jack Campbell, the defense got better. They ranked 19th in yards, 23rd in points, and 18th in takeaways. And then finally, in 2024, after 4 years of building, the Detroit Lions had a respectable defense. They ranked 20th in yards last season when it comes to yards allowed, 7th in points allowed, and 10th across to the league in takeaways. Now, there are going to be two different sides of the conversation of how good the Detroit Lions defense really was. Yes, some of their statistics were inflated by the blowouts of, the Dallas Cowboys, the Tennessee Titans, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But there was also the other side that down the stretch last season, the defense really struggled yet again. And yes, injuries, of course, are a massive part of it. But at the end of the day, the Lions defense under Aaron Glenn was never truly elite. It was never truly a top-tier defense across the league, even with several Pro Bowlers and multiple All-Pros across it. They were never really the top defense in all of football. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think Aaron Glenn will be a successful head coach. In fact, quite the contrary. I think Aaron Glenn has all of the makings to be a fantastic head coach, and I think his leadership qualities, I think his likability as a coach, and really his personality fits much better at the head coaching position than it does as a defensive coordinator. I don't think his scheme is particularly complex. I don't think his play calling is particularly great, but I think his leadership qualities, I think his ability to inspire a team, his ability to get players ready to play and develop players as individuals, are qualities that will make him a really good head coach. And I do think he is well deserving of that position on the New York Jets. So, with that being said, the pickup point is not nearly as high, and the level of expectation isn't nearly as high as the offense's is after Ben Johnson left, right? Next season, as long as the Detroit Lions hire somebody with a semi competence when it comes to calling plays, they should be better than 20th in yards. They should be right up there as top 10 in points allowed on the defensive side of the ball, and right up there again with their takeaways. They're returning Kirby Joseph, they're returning Brian Branch, they're returning Terrion Arnold, and potentially even Carlton Davis. Ennis Rakestraw Jr. will come back. Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone will come back. Aiden Hutchinson will be healthy. Aleem McNeil will be healthy. Potentially Derek Barnes will come back healthy. So the defense doesn't have as high of expectations as the offense, but I do still think there should be expectations going into next season, regardless of who the defensive coordinator will be. The biggest option and the most popular opinion as of right now is Kelvin Sheppard, a player who spent nearly a decade in the NFL with the Bills, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Giants, the Bears, and the Detroit Lions. He retired from his playing career in 2018 and took up a career behind the scenes. He began at LSU as the director of player development in 2020, became the Detroit Lions outside linebackers coach in 2021. It was promoted to all-around linebackers coach in 2022, where he currently resides in that position. It's important to note that when the Detroit Lions went down to the Senior Bowl and they were evaluating talent from those seniors, that Kelvin Sheppard acted as the interim defensive coordinator, and I thought did a really good job. He resonated well with a lot of the players, and although of course it's an all-star game, it's a Senior Bowl, it's, you're not going to bring out any complex blitzes or any unique packages from the defense. I think the fact that the Detroit Lions were willing to give that position to Kelvin Sheppard shows their trust development qualities that they believe Sheppard has, as well as just his overall ability to inspire a locker room, to lead a defense. And I think that shows a lot of great qualities that Kelvin Sheppard could bring to the defensive coordinating table. Now, with that being said, of course, Kelvin Sheppard cannot be the only coach in the carousel. He cannot be the only option, and the Detroit Lions are doing their homework. Another popular option as of recently is Larry Foote, a former player at the University of Michigan, a two-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and currently the pass game coordinator and linebackers coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Larry Foote spent time in the NFL, over a decade's worth of experience with the Steelers, the Lions, the Steelers yet again, and the Arizona Cardinals before officially retiring and hanging up his cleats to take up coaching as well. In his time in the NFL's coaching circle, he began with the Arizona Cardinals in 2015 as the assistant linebackers coach. He became the all-around linebackers coach in 2016 to 2018. Before moving over to Tampa Bay, where he became again the outside linebackers coach and then was promoted in 2022 to be both the pass game coordinator and the all-around linebackers coach. The Detroit Lions have put in a bid and will interview Larry Foote for the defensive coordinator position, and this comes just 24 hours after stealing another Tampa Bay coach in Casey Johnson, who was the run game coordinator and defensive line coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a season ago. These both options between Kelvin Sheppard and Larry Foote, I think, are good options for the Detroit Lions. Neither of them have been defensive coordinators before. Both of them are very young relative to their coaching experience, but I think both of them are highly qualified. Both of them are well respected within their organizations, and I would not be opposed at all to either of these candidates becoming the next defensive coordinator. Some other dark horse options include Deshaun Townsend, the Detroit Lions' current defensive backs coach, Ryan Nielsen, the Jaguars' current defensive coordinator, and Jim Leonhard, the Broncos' current defensive backs coach as well. All three of these guys have connections to Dan Campbell in their coaching history. And one more that I'll throw on there is potentially Dennis Allen. The former head coach of the New Orleans Saints and former defensive coordinator was rumored to be going with Ben Johnson to Chicago, although that deal has not officially been made and signed, right? Dennis Allen is officially still a free agent and running a pretty similar system to what the Detroit Lions ran in Detroit, that system coming from New Orleans. It wouldn't be a bad idea at all for the Detroit Lions to bring over Dennis Allen, who for nearly 5 to 6 years had the New Orleans Saints as a top 10 defense in yards allowed and touchdowns allowed back to back to back seasons throughout the early 2020s. And yet his head coaching experience, his head coaching tenure didn't quite work out, but his ability to call a defense, his ability to put players in positions to succeed is a very highly respected one across the league. And I do think he'd be a good candidate as well. So we'll talk about all of those coaching candidates later in following weeks. But I wanted to get out just the two biggest candidates right now, get you familiar with their names, get you familiar with their line of work, and potentially put them on your radar as the coaching carousel continues. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Please down below in the comments, leave what coach you want to see the Detroit Lions hire as the defensive coordinator, whether it's Kelvin Sheppard, whether it's Larry Foote, whether it is, Dennis Allen, or any of the other coaches across the league that could potentially be brought in. I'd be curious and love to hear what you guys have to say about it. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.